Simon, when you look at it, five wins from his first 16 Premier League games in charge for Mauricio Pochettino at Chelsea. They sit 12th. But then you look at it more closely, Simon. They spent 400 million in the summer to bring in, for him, another 12 players. And all in all, under Bowley, they spent $1 billion since the new ownership took over last May. And they've got so much worse. How does this work? And will Messrs Bowley and Igbali be that bothered?
Well, I don't think they signed up to see a Chelsea side not being significantly influential in the Premier League and giving himself an opportunity to generate revenue streams in European football. I don't think that was part of their plan. I don't think it was this rush to spend $1 billion or £1 billion in this instance to achieve nothing right now besides headlines that the club is, spending £1 billion. I mean, we seem to be awfully concerned for Todd Bowley about the £1 billion that he's spent. He doesn't seem to be concerned about it.
I'm not in the slightest bit concerned.
And the constant reference about it, they bought some young players and they've overpaid for players, and every football club owner overpays for players, and the scale of football now gives
it's a remarkable spend, Simon.
Yeah, it's what it is.
In 1 year.
Yeah, it's in 3 transfer windows. Absolutely. I mean, you could probably pro-rata it back to what Roman Abramovich spent back in 2003. In fact, if you actually look at what Roman Abramovich spent in 2003 and pro-rata it forward...
But they were winning Premier Leagues and Champions League. They weren't 12.
They didn't because when Roman Abramovich came in 2003, they had Claudio Ranieri. They won Premier Leagues when Jose Mourinho came in 2004, 2005. So there was an element of Chelsea, but not to this decline, not to this level. But they're poor. And, and you look at these players and you think to yourself, what is Pochettino doing? You can have the argument whether Mudryk is a £100 million or £90 million footballer, or whether he's a £50 million footballer. At that level, they should still be performing better than they are. They're turning players that have been decent in other sides into players that are not particularly decent in this side.
There's a Chelsea fan, one of many actually, who say this. Chelsea's demise began 14 months ago when Tuchel was sacked.
May well have done. It may well have done. If you're prepared to have a manager behave exactly as he wants, talk to owners as he does, do what he did behind the scenes, and if you're prepared to tolerate that, then ultimately you'll have a manager that might produce a modicum of success in the short term in the dugout. People will always make the argument, they'll attribute it back to the Tuchel signing, in football terms, in results, immediate result terms, you can clearly see the delineation for that. And whether Graham Potter was the right decision, I thought it wasn't a great decision. I don't think Pochettino's a great decision. And I think the players themselves are poor, and all of those things bring you an outcome. And whether they've bought the right players, what they've paid for these players. Enzo Fernandez, on one hand, you've got the boy at Liverpool, McAllister, going to Liverpool for 40 million quid and making a decent impact in a decent side in Liverpool. You've got a player like most people would suggest Fernandez is a decent player. The problem with Fernandez is they paid 105 million quid for him, and it's not worth that kind of money. And you look at Chelsea and you wonder, I thought Chelsea would be more impacted this season. I didn't think they'd win the league. I thought that they'd be competitive and maybe get themselves inside the top 4. But they were a country mile off it.
Not half. I mean, where is the Pochettino process? Pochettino, Simon says, if you understand football, it's a new project, new team, too many circumstances against us. I mean, is that necessarily the case, Stuart?
I'm not sure I see too many circumstances against them. What I would say is they spent a lot of money. Doesn't look as though it's well spent at this moment in time. I don't think the answer in this window and the next window is spending again. I almost think that as a manager, you've got to say to your squad of players, we are what we are. And this group of people in this dressing room have got to turn results around. I've got to do it, and you as a group of players have got to do it. And put the onus back on themselves, rather than saying the answer's in the transfer window. I don't think it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, Pochettino's alluding to the next window. This was him.
The expectation was massive. Chelsea always, the expectation is to win the league, is to win the Premier League. But of course, after is the reality. And sometimes that is, the team is still fighting for different circumstances, but sometimes it's good. Reality check. We need to fight. That is our reality now. Now our reality is mid-table, and now if we want to go up, it's not only to play well. It's about to be more tough with ourselves. And come on, we are going to push the player. The player need to push themselves also, and of course, and then it's a massive assessment from the beginning of the season or from the day 1 to today, and when open the transfer window, see what we can do. I don't know say that we need to ask for more player or less player, but I think it's to see if the perception match the reality. You know, is expectation in here, reality is here, is because we are missing something in the middle. If that is the reality, and you know, maybe we need to improve our reality.
Maybe they need to. Simon, when the transfer window opens, we shall see what we can do.
I have no idea what he's talking about. I have no idea what he said.
I kind of went round in circles with it as well, I must be honest.
I have no idea what I don't see one scintilla iota of enlightenment. Yes, the expectation is massive. That's why you were given a job, because Chelsea's a big football club and people have bought it for £2.5 billion. So the expectation comes with the territory, as I imagine it did at PSG. To some degree, it came at Tottenham. Expectation is part and parcel of every single football club. You have the added benefit of having an abundance of money to be able to give you the support. I don't know what I genuinely, listening to what he said, I don't know what he's saying. So it's difficult to pull the bones out of it and say, well, I think he means this. Yes, there's nothing wrong with going in the transfer market in January. If you've made bad buys and you want to trade your way out of some of the players that you've got and trade your way into some new players, and maybe change the direction, possibly. But I'm looking at saying, I'm reading what he said, listening to what he said, and I'm saying, well, I don't know what he said, so I can't pull it apart or praise it, because it's self-evident that football clubs are supposed to evolve. You're supposed to make the difference. The players are supposed to be better under you, not worse. The outcomes are supposed to be better. And there's a malaise at Chelsea, and I don't know what it is, and I don't even, obviously people will automatically assume it's the ownership, and they may be right, because everything starts at the top and the fish rots from the head down, doesn't it? But this rotting head is something that's spending millions of pounds that I suspect managers have been involved in. I don't just suspect it's this rush for idiot football club owners from America to subsequently just buy players. The only difference between what they're buying and possibly what they should be buying is the price tag. I think they're getting their pants pulled down on the prices, but I'm assuming somewhere, I don't think some North American owner has just suddenly think, I know what I fancy this week, I fancy Enzo Fernandez.
But the buck stops with them, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, economically, yeah. So, and if they're not complaining about the price point, we then need to look at the players and say, have they bought the wrong players? Put aside the price point, did they buy the wrong players? Because Mudryk was a player that everyone was after. This wasn't Chelsea it wasn't just Chelsea that were after Mudryk. It was a group of players, and the reasons why Chelsea got him is because they were prepared to pay more money than everyone else. And that's why they got him. And all of a sudden, this boy can't run with the ball.
Yeah. I mean, is the answer to throw more money at it?
Well,
surely not.
But it's always football's answer. It's never not been football's answer. To get a new broadcast deal, you throw more money at it. To get a new football club in a direction, you get a new owner in. To get better players, you buy players. To get a better manager, you get a better manager. The ultimate answer for football is always money. Yeah. It's how it's spent.
I think the word he used in that was, we need to fight. And that's what I'm hearing about the performance at Everton. There was no fight in the team. And I look, and I've got nothing against him, because I love the kid, and I think he's got a bright future, Conor Gallagher. But when I see Chelsea Football Club, who've got perceptions on winning the league, being led out, captained by Conor Gallagher, I'm thinking to myself, this is Chelsea Football Club that's had a captain like John Terry, that's got the stature of John Terry and whatever. Conor might be a fantastic captain in time to come, but for him to lead Chelsea Football Club out at this moment in time, it's too soon, and it sends a message out. For me, it sends a message out that, is there not a better suited captain in the ranks of your football team? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, Chelsea are mid-table, Stuart, because Chelsea are a mid-table club right now. Would that be right?
Well, it doesn't lie.
It doesn't
lie. Tables don't lie.
In performance. Yeah. I mean, you can't. If you're talking, normally what we say is the more money you spend, the higher up the league you spend. The higher up the league you go, the bigger your wage bill, and the more up the table you are, the bigger you spend. So they were Premier League winner in spend, and a poor side in attainment. So as far as the club's ambitions, Pochettino is not considered to be a mid-table manager. Chelsea's spend isn't anything vaguely resembling a mid-table club.
No.
The only thing that's seemingly mid-table about Chelsea is their week-in, week-out performances from their players.
The important bit.
And if the manager's talking about fight, if we are taking it literally and extrapolating that up to suggest that there's not enough substance in the dressing room, well, that's his job. You know, he's been there now. They're 30%, 40% of the season through. You need to be building a side that looks like something vaguely resembling what you want. Yeah. Eddie Howe walks into Newcastle. I know that I've written an article about him last week, and of course since then he's conceded 7 goals and lost 2 games. But Eddie Howe very quickly, despite the Hartlepool FA Cup loss, built a side relatively quickly. What Pochettino will point to is expectation. The expectation of Chelsea is very different. But that's why you're in the job.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you get paid £8 million a year to be a so-called top-flight manager.
£8 million a year. If you're Sheffield United, to be honest, Stuart, you're going to Chelsea next Saturday. Do you fear much?
I think if you're Sheffield United, you should fear on current form. But yeah. I take your point. The bottom line is there could be something there for you. You know, Forest have been down there and won 1-0. You know, and various clubs.
Yeah.
There's not a fear factor associated with Chelsea Football Club at this moment in time, performance-wise. It's very hit and miss. Chelsea could win that game 4-0 next week or get beat 1-0.
So the Pochettino process, Chelsea fans, are you seeing it? If not, what are you seeing? 03717 223344 810 89. It's 10:30.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.